Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I rise to speak on the amended motion. Where to start? In this place, sometimes you listen to the debate that goes back and forwards, and particularly the events over the last week where this issue has been raised repeatedly in the media. I feel like, in part, the LNP administration has been listening because the reassessment of the ACOM locations has been raised, certainly by myself. I'm sure Councillor Johnston has raised it as well. That's been raised multiple times over the past week, that we need to look at the impact that we saw in 2011. We need to look at the impact that we've seen in 2022 and do a comparative and have that analysis done by the experts. So finally, that's exactly what the petition that my residents have been signing over the last 7 days calls for. 150 people want this reassessment done in my local area, but what they also wanted was what was promised to them. So those two things go hand in hand, and we've got this extraordinary position now where the LNP comes into this place and wants to, I guess they've been shown up for what they are, which is not listening to the experts. We have Councillor Maddock saying, listen to the experts, but just not these ones. Then we have the Lord Mayor saying people are providing false hope. I don't know who is providing false hope when consistently every single councillor on this side of the chamber has been saying, we know they don't prevent flooding. We know that. But we know that they can mitigate the impacts of that flooding. So to say tonight that no one on this side of the chamber has discussed mitigation is just not true. That is all we've talked about, is asking for the mitigation that was promised to be done. And now we're in a position where we do have this proposed amendment, and I agree with the points that have been made by Councillor Tree and Councillor Johnston around, I do also have concerns about the second part of this motion, which is problematic. We only talk about homeowners. We don't talk about the impact of roads being cut, the fact that there were residents in this city who couldn't make it to the evacuation centres because the roads were cut. So there are going to be circumstances where backflow devices will benefit people who are not homeowners. But here we are tonight in the position where we need to vote on this proposed amendment, and I wholeheartedly support the first part of the amendment, and I know my fellow Labor councillors do as well. But this second part of the amendment is problematic. So in the interests of looking at the best possible outcome, we will support the amendment because it is addressing the issues in part that we have been raising, particularly over the last week on this issue. But I just think it's a bit disingenuous, particularly from Councillor Maddock. Some of his comments about that we're delusional over this side. I mean, they're just unnecessary. And I think, the LNP consistently over the last couple of weeks has called for there to be a bipartisan approach on some of these issues, but yet can't help themselves. They come into this place and have a jab every single time. They can't just admit that they did the wrong thing, that they made a mistake.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Maddock.
Claim to be misrepresented.
Noted.
Well, Councillor Maddock, I wrote it down. You used those words, and I think the only person who has been delusional is in making those comments about things that just haven't been said by this side. Consistently, we've been trying to assert the interests of our residents in protecting their properties and mitigating the risk, not extinguishing flooding altogether. So that's disappointing. The other disappointing thing that we've heard from the LNP during this debate is consistent talk of best value. What is best value? Who is valued in this city? The comments from Councillor Davis previously on this issue around certain devices only benefiting 10 people. I mean, they're just plain wrong. And they were the arguments that we used to discredit residents, particularly in my local area, who had genuine concerns. So we'll be supporting the amended motion this evening, but I think it's incredibly disappointing that week after week we have to come into this place and there is a real sense that at the end of the day, this LNP administration knows that they have failed to deliver these devices. They know that residents have been impacted by flooding that, had they done their job, wouldn't have been impacted to the degree that they were. And here we are having to debate for hours something that simply should have been done. So, Mr Chair, we will be supporting the amended motion tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cook.